Tell me a time when you had a biggest failure
Mm-hmm.
and how did you manage it?
Hmm.
Tell me a time when you had a difficult feedback from your manager
Mm-hmm.
and how did you take it? Hello everyone, I'm Sugat, product manager at Meta, and I create content related to product management and interview experiences. Don't forget to check up some of my previous videos where I have shared more than 35 companies' interview experiences, and I hope you find value out of it. Today I have Bhavana again with us, and this time we are doing things a bit different. Uh, Today we're gonna be doing a quick mock interview on leadership and behavioral round, which is often been asked in any product manager interviews. This round is the most underrated yet most important one. So please watch this video and let me know in your comment how would you have answered this kind of questions if asked in interview. So Bhavna, are you ready?
Yes, all ready for it.
Cool. So my first question to you, Bhavna, is uh, tell me a time when you had a biggest failure
Mm-hmm.
and how did you manage it?
I think one of the biggest blunders that I've done in Big Basket is so I was a product manager for the delivery app. So we had to roll out a new feature. So what we typically do is do a small pilot with like 100 users. And then once we see there are no bugs, there are no blockers, and then we release it to more delivery riders. So what I did is, so we typically do this configuration in the midnight, okay? Because that's when we have to deliver the least number of orders.
Correct.
So I did this configuration in midnight and I slept happily and I kept my phone in silent, okay? And what happened is when I woke up in the morning at 8 o'clock, I had some 30, 40 missed calls from my manager, from
Wow.
everybody in the operations. I'm like, okay, something is messed up now. So that's when I understood that I had made the wrong configuration. So generally, when we decide about a pilot, we say, okay, we are going to do this pilot in JP Nagar hub. Okay, so let's say the code for that hub is 123. And instead of that, I had configured it to a wrong hub. It was like 456. And they were not prepared. They don't know what this new feature is. And suddenly the app also stopped working
Wow.
because of that new feature. So we had to disable this. And my manager was on leave as well. So I did not answer the calls. And then my manager got the call. Of course, she couldn't do it. And then she had to ask another product manager. And finally, we changed it. Now, because of this, almost 1,000 orders were delayed.
Wow.
Because because the app had literally stopped working, so we had to roll it to a different app version, the previous one. So this was a real business impact, right? Like 1,000 orders delayed within like 2-3 hours. So, and we give 10% delivery guarantee if we are late. So that was one of the biggest blunders that I had done. And from then onwards, whenever we do pilot release, I never put my phone on silent. I make sure that first of all, I should be very, very careful when I do any configurations in production. So it's a very important responsibility for a product manager.
Correct.
So I'm like super careful. I double check if it's the right hub ID and things like that. And also, I'll be awake for any calls just in case something doesn't work. So that's one of the biggest blunders and how I handled it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. My next set of questions are tell me a time when you had a difficult feedback from your manager and how did you take it?
Okay. So, as usual, I think in every appraisal, we expect a promotion. Most of us, even though we have been promoted every year, I think the next year we always want to be promoted. So in one of those appraisal meetings, my manager, she's my favorite manager of all the managers that I've worked. She's Tanu Gupta. And she gave me a feedback that I was not very data oriented. So the thing is, I am bad at SQL. Okay, I'm guilty of it. So and she's very good at SQL. Okay, and there are many other product managers who are really good in terms of being data oriented. So she told that, okay, look, Bhavna, you are not going to be promoted this year, so relax, and you will really have to work on being more data oriented. So what I generally do is I'm very much like customer focused, okay, like experience focused.
Correct.
So not really backing up with data. So whenever you come up with a product spec or a user story, I think developers expect you to come up with some data proof saying why we need to do this, right? So I was not doing that for most of the stories. And that was one of the feedback which I got. So then what I did is I worked on it for 1 year, and next year I was promoted. And she did give me feedback that I became data oriented. And how did I do this? I did not learn SQL. So it's just that I worked very, very closely with analytics team. So
Got
what I used to do is I was sitting beside them, and then I was like, hey, can you please help me with this data? Like, how do I look at this data? And they were very kind and they helped me with it. So I got the data that I wanted, and then I put it in the stories. So I became data oriented without knowing SQL.
That's a great success. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really about getting the job done, right?
True.
Whether you know coding, whether you know SQL, that's not the thing. If you're able to get help, and asking help is not a bad thing,
Yep.
right? So that's one of the lessons that I learned, and that's how I handle the feedback.
Awesome. And maybe a final question.
Okay.
Tell me a time when you had a conflict with your engineering team.
When did I not have it? I think it happens with every product manager. And this was very early in my PM career, where I wrote an escalation email on a engineer.
Okay.
So as usual, it's
Great.
the same thing saying, okay, it's not a bug, it's a new feature request. And I was really hurt. I said, I'm going to write one escalation email. Third, I wrote escalation email. So that went to the engineering manager and they were pissed off. And then they came to my manager asking, why does Bhavna do this? So it was a very difficult situation. And I'll tell you, I almost cried. So, and I have cried, especially in the first 1 year of being a PM, handling stakeholders and handling engineers. It was a very difficult situation to be in, but now I don't cry. So it has taken few years now. So what happened after that is I understood it was my mistake because yes, maybe it could have been dealt in a better way. Maybe that escalation email was not required. Maybe I could have possibly called for a meeting saying, look, we really have this problem. We want to solve this. Now, whether it's a bug or a news story, it's okay, right? But we really have to solve it. And now, can you all please help, right? Maybe I lost my mind and then I got into this mode. But that is not something which has to be done that way.
Correct.
So, especially if you want to get it done, I think having that conflict will not help. It is only going to take more time because you need to bridge again.
Yeah.
Right? So better it's like, okay, now this has happened. Let's probably call for a meeting, explain the situation, and then probably ask or request the manager to tell the developer that, hey, look, I think we need to do this.
Correct.
So that was one of the things.
Cool. Thank you again for sharing these stories. I think, folks, if you're watching, and I think you would have learned what kind of questions are being asked in a typical behavioral and leadership round. The idea is to have this kind of situations and how you dealt with it.
Yeah.
What was your experience and what were your major learnings? So let me know in your comments. Pick up any of the questions, and if you would like to do the similar exercise, let me know and I would be happy to review or listen to your answers. Thanks again for watching this video, and thank you, Bhavana, for sharing these stories.
Thank you, Sugat. I really enjoyed our chat, and I'm happy to answer these behavioral questions. It just takes me back to those 5 years of product management at Big Basket.
Absolutely.
It was a great experience.
Thank you so much, folks, for watching.
Cool. Thank you.